Okay, let's do this. So call to order. Welcome to the tentative budget hearing. Wrong one. Excuse me. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the Captiva Erosion Prevention District. Kung Fu master of districts all around the country, I'd like you to know. September the 13th, it's Monday, it's 2021 at 3 p.m. 3:07, thank you for clarification. The meeting will now come to order. Okay, let's start with the roll call. Starting on my right, we have
John Sylvia here.
and Harry Kaiser. Myself, Renee Beville, physically here. We have a quorum and we have to, yes, excuse me?
We need a motion to allow the.
Mike Mullins on Zoom.
And Mr. Kyle on Zoom?
Do we really need a motion?
Here.
That's rules or
Yes, sir.
whatever. Okay,
We need to
fine.
legally allow
All
them.
right, let's have a motion to
Motion.
allow the Zoom people to be on.
To what?
No, the
To
people
allow
on Zoom
Commissioner
to allow
Mullins and
them
Treasurer Pyle
to
to attend virtually.
attend virtually. To allow, can I have a
Oh, to
motion,
allow
please?
Mike Mullins and
Dave Pyle to attend
to
virtually.
attend.
I'll second that.
All right, okay, call the vote. Aye. Okay, good.
That's unanimous.
All right, approval of the minutes. So we have everybody in attendance. Approval of the minutes, we'll now discuss the.
I'll make a approval
Okay,
to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
thank you.
Second that.
All right, all in favor?
All
Any
right,
discussion? Sorry, no.
Chairman Sylvia, aye. Secretary Kaiser, aye. Chairman Bill, aye. Treasurer Pyle.
Aye.
Commissioner Mullins.
Aye.
And as a note, I want proof that we have to do a roll call for every little vote.
Yes, sir.
I want that done. Because I don't believe that. I've gone to too many meetings, we don't go every single time. And who did? I mean, yes, for, definitely for resolutions, but not for obvious stuff. It's redundant. Okay, now, changes to the agenda. Madam Jennifer.
Right,
Take over.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we proceed, I would like to request a change to the agenda. The reason is because we have several individuals in the room who are coming in from out of town, and we have quite a lofty agenda. So I'm going to also ask that we table the Carolyn Weaver agenda item until our everybody in and through this, so we can get to our tentative trim hearing at 5:05 or 5:01 this afternoon. So I would like to ask that we table the Carolyn Weaver agenda item till October. Second, I would like to move the financial reports to after new business. Third, into old business, and then move the beach renourishment project update to new business item C. And we will have the bank loan discussion then after, I would like to move the bank loan discussion to after the tentative apportionment, which we are moving up.
Where is the revised agenda?
Let me just repeat those. I would like to table the Carolyn Weaver agenda item until October. I would like to move the financial reports to after new business. I would like to move the SCCF update into old business and move the beach nourishment project update to new business item C. So I would need a motion, Mr. Chair, and a second to make those changes to the agenda.
Because Commissioner Mullins will move that we adjust the agenda as pursuant to your discussion.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a
Thank
motion
you.
from Commissioner Mullins
Yeah.
and a second
Yeah.
from Treasurer
Call,
Pyle.
call the motion. Call the vote.
John has a question.
So,
I said public discussion.
so on the sheet, I don't see those last two items you talked about.
Which are,
It should be beach nourishment project update, town and administrative. It'll be on the agenda, not the table.
Right, so if you look on the agenda, which is in your booklet,
I see the beach nourishment and SPF updates.
yes,
And you want to do what?
I want to move those up in the interest of time.
So SCCF updates are being moved to old business item C. And the beach nourishment project is being moved up to new business item C.
Okay, thank you.
okay, calling the vote. All,
Aye.
Vice Chairman,
Aye.
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 votes unanimous.
Thank you. Oh, nice. Okay, now what is the first, I'm sorry. Okay, so what is
Public
the,
comments.
after this public, is there any public
Yep,
comments?
you're gonna ask for public comments.
Yeah, I know. All right, so are there any public comments? We'll start with the people physically present. Okay, is there anyone virtually that would like to say something?
Mr. Levinson, hi, Mr. Levinson, if your comment is about the tentative apportionment, I'll have you, we have your letter for discussion during the tentative
I
apportionment,
can speak during public hearing.
and you can speak during the public hearing. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, you broke up. Could you repeat that?
Sure, I have your letter to be read after the tentative apportionment portion of the meeting. So if your comment is about your tentative apportionment, would you mind waiting until after and we read your letter?
That's fine. When would that, is that going to be during this meeting or at a different time?
Shortly.
That's fine.
Okay, so the first thing,
You want-
so what is the next thing? 'Cause you
We
have
have to
village,
close public comment.
oh, closed public comment, and
And
the
then we'll
public
move
is
on.
closed. All right. Which item? This is not number six. Number six, I see. So we go, so it's not in the line. It's okay. So we're going to,
You're in the tentative one again. We're reading two different packets. Number 6.
we're jumping to six. All right, so. Okay. So now Daniel Munt is moving on to old business. CEPD has prepared a presentation to explain the current apportionment model. We've had workshops, we've had other meetings. I think we've gone over it a lot, and we've had some very nice input from the community. And it's a trickle-up process, and we're very adamant about that trickle-up process. So bottom line is, for the final time, Daniel Munt is going to present for the public watching and public at hand the tentative, with a capital T, apportionment design at this point.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, you referred to it as the current apportionment model. It is the proposed tentative
Proposed.
apportionment model.
Yes. Yes,
Just trying to clarify.
thank you, thank you. So what?
May I speak?
Of course,
Thank
please.
you. Our technical director, Daniel Munt, as our chair just stated, has presented this PowerPoint numerous times. Prior to him presenting the PowerPoint, giving an overview of the PowerPoint, I would like to ask that he discuss the proposed apportionment complaint that we received from 16201 Captiva Drive.
Do we have a name for that property owner? I just want to make sure it's not somebody that's on here.
Richard Levinson.
Yes.
Okay, good. So now we're going to deal with his letter and discuss it. Is that it?
What we're gonna do is we're gonna read it first, and
Yes.
then we're gonna have our technical director, Dan, discuss the complaint, and then we're gonna have Dan move in to the explanation that was given, and then go into his PowerPoint, an overview of his PowerPoint. And then we can open it afterwards for public hearing, so that the three of us can let us speak.
Has everyone read the letter? Do we need to read the letter?
Well, I think for the public, we can probably paraphrase it, or we can probably, do you want to talk about
We should be talking about the tentative apportionment. The apportionment answer is correct. I thought I would answer the question afterwards and with the apportionment, so we can get the bank loan. Why are we doing it this way? I thought we had a discussion.
That's what I have, but-
Okay, let's do it that way. Fine.
All right, so Dan, do you want to talk about the proposed apportionment complaint?
Well, I'd like to, I'm sorry, bear with me, I'm not feeling very well. If you have the letter there, if John or you could read it aloud, and then I'll cover how we responded to it in my presentation, if that works.
Thank you, that would be great.
This letter was sent July 9th, 2021 from Richard Levinson for proposed assessment for 16201 Captiva Drive. It says, I recently received my proposed assessment and was quite surprised to find that my property is subject to a full storm protection assessment. Your 2021 benefits-based apportionment paper states on page 7, only properties that are considered front lines of the Gulf of Mexico are considered to receive storm protection benefits. My home is sited on the channel approximately 600 feet east of Captiva Drive. Another home stands between my house and Captiva Drive. I have what is often called a flag lot. There's a 25-foot wide driveway from Captiva Drive that runs along the northern border of 16205 Captiva Drive to my lot. My neighbor to the south, 16211 Captiva Drive, has an essentially identical property. It too is a flag lot. The house is also about 600 feet east of Captiva Drive on the channel. Another home stands between hers and Captiva Drive. The storm assessment for her property is 0. The difference between our properties is that I own a small piece of land on the west side of Captiva Drive. This property only provides beach access. It has 50 feet of frontage on Captiva Drive and runs west to the mean tide line. It is by no means buildable, and the only improvement is a gate. In contrast, 16211 Captiva Drive has a deeded easement to provide beach access. In my studies long ago, I learned that a basic tenet of public finance is that similarly situated taxpayers should pay similar taxes, and a basic tenet of insurance is that similar risks should bear similar premiums. It is illogical that owning approximately 2,000 square feet of unimproved sand produces a 100% assessment, while an access easement produces a 0% assessment. It is also illogical that owning that bit of sand gives my home on the channel the same storm risk and renourishment benefit as the home that stands directly on the beach. The configuration of my property with the house on the channel and on beach access is an anomaly. A cursory review of the apportionment map suggests that there is only other property 16189 Captiva Drive with similar circumstances. I believe that the full storm damage assessment of my property is inconsistent with the stated policy of applying storm assessments only to properties that are front lines of the Gulf of Mexico. I suggest that the operating definition of front line be refined to apply only to buildable lots. I respectfully request that you adopt this change and reclassify my property.
Are we allowed to ask questions at this point?
Not yet, Commissioner Mullins. We're gonna let our technical director go ahead and go through the apportionment presentation where he answers our response to Mr. Levinson. Then we will open up for public hearing to hear from Mr. Levinson. And at that point after is when you all may ask questions. Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, I got my screen up there if you can see the presentation.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Daniel Mann. I'm the technical director, and this is our presentation on the tentative beach nourishment apportionment. Controls are not working. Okay, as I'm sure everyone is aware, CEPD began an island-wide beach nourishment at the beginning of September, and this is for placement of approximately 750,000 cubic yards of beach fill spread along nearly 5 miles of beach. As a 750,000 cubic yard project, the project is expected to cost approximately $18 million in total. From that, the DEP is expected to contribute up to 21.07% of the total cost of the project. Lee County is expected to contribute up to 29.45% of the remainder of the project, and no other funding sources have been taken into account for the purposes of this demonstration. This leaves approximately $8.9 million estimated to be the local cost of the project for the purposes of this tentative apportionment model. All properties on Captiva benefit from this project in some manner. Property values will rise accordingly. The Gulf-facing properties receive the benefit of enhanced protection from erosion as well as storm damage. Properties are grouped into 6 separate categories, and these groupings are known as storm protection benefit zones. All public properties receive the benefit of a more desirable beach. 3 distinct categories have been created for this model based upon the amount of benefit received. They're labeled as residential, residential with homestead exemption, and commercial. The models known are titled as the benefits-based apportionment model. And the concept behind the benefits-based model is to fairly distribute the local costs of the beach nourishment project to the property owners in proportion to the benefits that they actually receive from this project. To do this, separate studies were performed to determine the per year value that's added for each of the benefit categories, those being storm protection and recreation. Again, only properties that are considered frontline to the Gulf of Mexico are considered to receive storm benefits. This benefit is measured in difference between the value of expected property losses if the project were not constructed versus the reduced expected property losses if the project were to be constructed. The CEPD has received 1 complaint regarding concerning the location of development in relation to the Gulf. This is in reference to Mr. Levinson's property. As he stated, he has a flag lot that stems from bayside to beach side, with his house situated more closely to the bay side of that property. And our response to him is that the storm protection benefits are more than just the loss of the house. It's also land loss, armor, development backfill. Those are the differences that go into the benefits received for this property. Okay. So to determine the values, Aptum performed a 22-year simulation, both with the project and without. The simulation revealed that the project's construction reduces the expected annual damages by nearly $3 million. Private property owners receive a reduction to the expected property losses of nearly $2.5 million. This table illustrates how the properties are grouped in similar categories by Aptum Engineering. These are based upon historic scientific data that's established predictable patterns of erosion. This data allows engineers to fortify Captiva to further island resiliency. This table shows the reduction in total expected property losses per year and further specifies the specific zones that they're generated from. As you recall from the previous slide, the upper South Seas beach zone is both the largest and most valuable land per square foot. It also has the largest beach width profile on the island. This results in highest benefit share of the storm protection benefits. This slide is based upon an estimated $8.9 million local project cost. The middle table on your screen shows a breakdown of each of the six storm protection zones. The annual storm benefit amount by zone is converted to a percentage of total storm benefits received on the island. And then this percentage represents the cost share per zone. Total just values are shown and millage rates are calculated accordingly. So for this example, calculations have been performed with a $2 million property just value at each of the millage rates. And keep in mind that the property's just value is calculated by the property appraiser's office and is not controlled by CEPD. This slide just shows an overview of each of the zones and relative to where they are on the island. And I'll move on to recreation benefits. So all private properties on Captiva receive a recreational benefit of the enhanced beach that's created. A willingness to pay survey was performed by Dr. Strong and Dr. Jackson to determine the monetary value of the beach that's created. Their research concluded that recreational benefit of the beach is worth over $5.3 million per year. The table on your screen shows the breakdown of where these benefits are attributed to, as well as percentage of benefit received by category. This table is was recently updated by Dr. Strong to account for present value of future money. Delving into the data reveals that permanent residents utilize the beach far less often than any other subgroup of beachgoers. The whole concept of this model is based upon benefits received, so a subcategory of residential with homestead exemption was created to provide permanent residents of the island with a 42.1% discount as set in previous nourishments. This, again, the slide's based on that same $8.9 million local project cost. The table on your screen shows a breakdown of each of the recreational benefit categories. The annual benefits categories are converted to a percentage of recreational benefits received on the island. And this, again, is the cost share. And we've also provided example $2 million property just value calculations just for comparison's sake. So this table here provides a breakdown of the monetary value of the benefits received by storm protection category and recreation category to give a holistic view of the cost share breakdown for local funding. This slide shows a side-by-side comparison of the current model to the final model that was adopted in 2014. And you'll see that the only major change is assessing the residential properties without distinction to the residence type. Our project highlights is we received enhanced beaches, Captiva Island beach protection from storm and sea level rise, and improved property values. A little cost benefit. The current estimated cost roughly 8.9 million locally. So once the final assessment's made, payments can be made within 60 days, interest-free or in installments over the lifetime of the project at 2% yearly interest above the interest rate of the bank loan. The return on investment received from beach nourishment project is one of the best investments that someone can make, with the total annual benefits estimated over $5.2 million. It's roughly equal to 50% return, or I'm sorry, 110% return on investment over the duration of the project on an annual basis. Just to highlight the treatment of the institutional properties on the island. They're grouped in with the residential category. These include the Captiva Civic Association, the Chapel by the Sea, and the 11 properties of the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation. And so the board's directed that recreational assessments be derived same as they were in the 2014 project. And just for comparison's sake, this last slide is the left column is the title column. The middle column is where, as the model currently assesses the institutional properties, and the far right column shows what would happen or what the differences would be if the institutional properties were grouped back in with the commercial properties.
John would like to ask a question. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Dan, on institutional properties, are these the same as tax exempt properties? Are there institutional properties that are not tax exempt? And is this all the institutional properties on the island?
Well, answer this is all the institutional properties on the island are grouped into this. I believe some of them may be tax exempt. I'm not certain of their tax status. And I'm sorry, what was the other question?
So this is all of them, and we're not sure if the institutional properties, all the institutional properties are tax exempt. And are we sure that all the tax exempt properties are institutional properties?
So these are grouped out by their DOR code as assessed by the property appraiser. These are all within the 70s categories. It's different than their tax exemption status. So I'm not sure offhand if they're all wholly exempt or partially exempt. or what their status is.
Thank you.
Daniel, I'd like to add a comment to what John is questioning, and that is that there are some properties that are owned by the county that are tax exempt in the sense that they don't get taxed, but they're not institutional unless you consider the county. To me, they're governmental properties, and they're probably more than just the county, but there are several governmental properties that are not taxed or assessed.
Thank you, Michael.
Those properties will hold value in tax.
They don't get a property value, correct?
Right.
So I'm trying to understand, were we recommending when we recommended going forth with this apportionment to move the institutional properties to the commercial category? Was that approved?
No, sir.
No.
This is really to highlight that we have given consideration to the institutional properties to not treat them as fully commercial, and understanding that they, maybe don't generate as much of a profit as those commercials, and to highlight that they have received, for lack of a better term, I guess, a break in this model.
But then you moved into the residential factor, being charged residential at this particular time for this particular presentation.
Within our current model, yes, sir, they're considered in the residential category under the same umbrella at the same millage rate.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, keep going, Dan, thank you. Keep going.
So this would actually conclude the tentative apportionment presentation.
Now, we postponed Mr. Levinson's, I think we read his letter. Were we going to discuss that now at all, or we just were reading his letter?
Yes, the chair has to open it up now for public hearing.
All right, let's open it up for public hearing.
And then, Mr. Levinson, if you're ready to speak, we're ready to hear you.
I will.
Can you hear me?
He's muted.
Hello?
Yes, we hear you now, Dick.
Okay, thank you. The letter largely speaks to for itself. My problem is that as we've just seen, you built an extraordinarily detailed model of property and benefits on Captiva, but at the last step, there was a decision made that there are only two kinds of residential properties, those on the beach and those not on the beach. And that really ignores the reality of a handful of properties on the Tween Waters stretch that are located on the channel, but happen to own a very small parcel to gain access to the beach. And that's my situation. As I said in my letter, I've got a gate on that property. And my tentative assessment is about 28 times the replacement cost of that gate. And it just seems to me to be completely irrational to say that a small piece of beach access gets the same storm protection benefits as a multi-million-dollar house that sits on the beach. And that's basically the sum total of what my concern and problem is with the methodology. My recommendation was that beachfront properties be deemed as those that have a buildable lot. The staff rejected that. I think there needs to be some recognition of the small number of properties that are located on the channel and happen to own a small bit of land to access the beach, as opposed to having a deeded easement over somebody else's property. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Chairman, may I add a point of clarification? There
Yeah,
are
sure.
other properties on the island, certainly down on the south end where I live. My two neighbors to the south of me own non-buildable lots on the beach. And I don't know, I would have to ask Dr. Strong whether they're included or not. I think they are paying a storm damage protection benefit on that. They're not buildable lots. They're larger than what is described by Mr. Levinson. But they're basically almost a half an acre each. And they're not buildable, but they are treated as, I believe, as storm protected. And therefore they pay storm damage assessment protected. I don't know if there's any others, but I just do know there are at least those two. So it's not just the Tween Water stretch. There are some others on the island.
Well, I would like to conclude this by saying the beauty of the tentative apportionment is that we have a year to finalize it and strongly consider Mr. Levinson's requests and all that. That's the whole point of tentative first, and then a real apportionment later. So with that being said, Mr. Levinson, you have my word as chairman. We will look at it. There are some factors to talk about, but not really now, because we really want to get this beach for nourishment locked and loaded. But as I said, you have my word that we will look at it in a very transparent fashion and explain the positives that what you're requesting, negatives, but the beauty is there's a year here before you actually get it built. So with that being said,
May I suggest, Chairman, that we also follow up on Mike's comment that there seem to be other properties with slightly different variations.
well,
that
that's the
follow.
beauty of the tentative where we
Exactly.
go down. So I would like to move forward with the to secure the loan for Synovus Bank. So you go. So 6 and 8. You're asking for tentative apportionment. Okay, so
Excuse
that
me,
being
Mr.
said,
Chairman, are you asking for a motion to approve the tentative apportionment?
you saw this, you would go into panic. So it was a big scramble. There's blues and yellows, there's pieces here and there. It's like, it's not fun. All right, with that being said, do I have a motion to adopt the tentative apportionment model?
I will make the motion. This is Commissioner Mullins. I will make the motion to adopt the tentative apportionment, emphasis tentative,
So I have,
as proposed.
well, yes, thank you. Sorry for cutting. Who was our second?
Yes.
That's the second. Okay, any discussion?
2118. Right, resolution 2118.
2118.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. With that being said, let's call the vote. All in favor?
Sylvia,
Aye.
Secretary
Aye.
Kaiser, Treasurer Pyle,
Is he waving?
Big pile. He's muted right now.
Well, anyway, Dick, just wave your hand.
thumbs up, Mr. Pyle.
Aye.
There he is. Commissioner
Aye.
Mullins.
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Mullins.
Yeah, nay. I'm
Chairman.
voting
The resolution passes 4-1.
All right, in order to move, okay, so the next item is in order to move forward with our project, we need to secure the loan which we are taking from Synovus Bank. Mark Raymond has been our bond counsel for this process. Mr. Raymond, would you please present the resolution and closing documents?
Well, good afternoon. You've received a proposal from Synovus Bank to provide a loan in the amount of $18 million at a fixed interest rate of 2.12%. If you decide to proceed, the loan will close the day after tomorrow. Out of the $18 million in proceeds, you'll pay the interest that's due on May 1st and November 1st of next year. During next year, as you touched upon, to complete your special assessment that will be placed on the tax roll November of 2022, and the collections from that tax will pay the debt service on the loan in 2023 to its final maturity on May 1st of 2029. So you have before you resolution 2021-19. It authorizes the borrowing of the funds. It authorizes the execution of a loan agreement between the district and the bank. It provides that the loan is payable solely from the special assessments and no other funds of the district. It recognizes the fact that at a bond referendum held in March of 2019, the qualified electors of the district approved the borrowing by a vote of 106 for to 7 against. I prepared the resolution. It complies with all applicable legal requirements. Mr. Brooks has reviewed the resolution. I believe he concurs. If you have any questions of me, I'll be happy to try to answer them. Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I would like to make the motion to accept the resolution as proposed. Resolution 2022, is it 2022 dash? Can you repeat the number of the resolution?
19.
What was it, 2022-19 or 2021-19? I was confused.
21.
All right, 2021-19. My motion is to accept that resolution
Second.
as proposed.
Okay, we got plenty of seconds.
Vice Chairman Sylvia.
Wait, there's no public discussion, there's no more discussion, that's great.
Okay.
Call the vote.
Was there a second? I'm not hearing a lot of the audio, sorry.
Yeah, Harry seconded.
Got it. Hold on, and now we're in discussion.
No, this is dealt with.
No.
Apparently, there was no discussion.
I did have some questions, so I would like discussion. And the call to vote is the prerogative of the person making the motion, for the record, Mr. Chairman, according to our rules of procedure. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are we going to draw down on it immediately? Is that the plan? I wanted to be clear on that. As soon as the loan is approved, are we drawing down on the full amount, or I thought we had a year to take in portions of it. Is that correct?
Closing into your bank account.
Yeah, again, sorry, the audio, forgive me, is not great, but what did you say again,
It's
Mr. Raymond?
fully funded at closing into the district's bank account.
Okay. So we're basically drawing down the full amount immediately.
That's correct.
And the interest rate is what again?
2.12%.
Okay, I have no further questions. Call the vote.
Vice Chairman Sylvia.
Aye.
Secretary Kaiser.
Aye.
Treasurer Pyle.
Dick, you're muted now. Sorry.
Aye.
Just give-
Aye.
Okay, there- Commissioner Mullins.
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
And Commissioner Mullins, what you're saying is, of course, they want to put the money in. That way they make their 200K right out of the gate. And we didn't beat them up to say that wasn't going to be the deal.
No, I didn't have any editorial comment. I just wanted to understand the facts. Sorry.
Okay, well done. All right, so bank has their money,
So John, what was the vote on that?
5-0.
5-0.
Okay, the next thing is the sand thing. You see, you have
Right.
the, no, we're not doing that. I was very specific about next is the, for the change order.
Yep,
Correct.
happy to do
So we're
that.
doing the change order next.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, there was a side comment that I didn't hear that you're rejecting. Could you repeat when people make comments to you from the board, please? I guess Harry had some question.
No question at all.
No.
I was making a funny statement, adding
Oh.
some levity to the meeting.
Yeah.
And the public is smiling in the seats there. So-
Yes,
so
they
it must have been
smiling,
funny.
so they're happy.
Okay, let's go right to the
the.
jugular here. With the project having entered the construction phase, we need to approve, there's a couple things. We need to approve Apton to continue the services they are providing for the project. And basically, this has been several meetings and several workshops. All it is the continuance of the same charges. They haven't bumped up the charges. They still charge X for an hour for their engineer and for their assistant. They charge Y. And basically, they just need to know that we approve their contract.
Mr. Chairman, are you looking for a motion to approve Aptam's contract?
Thank you.
A motion to approve it.
Second.
Just call the vote, Mike.
Yeah, the first person. Vice Chairman Sylvia.
Yay.
Okay.
Secretary Kaiser.
Aye.
Treasurer Pyle. Treasurer Pyle.
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Mullins
Aye.
and Chairman Neville.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, so as you all know, there was a lot of storms very recently, and we lost about 100,000, or about 150,000 cubic yards of sand. It wasn't in the original survey. So in order to do this right, we have to give Great Lakes a change order, and they will, we've been assured by our engineer construction management team, Aptiv and Bureau, that they will charge us the price of $16 a yard, I believe, is it 16 a yard? Right, and we're asking for a total now of $925,000. So I basically need a vote for the change order, and then once.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion for the change order to increase the sand to a total of 925,000 cubic yards. Is that the correct
Right.
number?
Correct,
As proposed.
as proposed.
Needs a second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, let's call the vote.
second,
Vice Chairman Sylvia,
Aye.
Secretary Kaiser,
Aye.
Treasurer Pyle.
aye,
Just give us- Commissioner Mullins
Aye.
and Chairman Neville.
All right,
The motion passes unanimously.
okay,
We're
now,
good.
we got the big stuff.
aye,
Okay, now, the SCCF has prepared something,
Yes, so I would like to speak on this, if that's it.
but you're speaking on their
Yeah,
behalf?
I was gonna introduce them if you're.
Oh, yeah, please, by all
Okay, great.
means.
So, next on our change agenda, we would like to ask the Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation to speak on a couple of items to update us. As many of you know, we gave them a $75,000 grant earlier this year to hire a coastal resiliency aficionado, and they have hired her. And then we also gave them a $45,000 grant to do some turtle research. And then, of course, we are paying them as our vendor to do the turtle monitoring. So I'm going to turn it over to the SCCF CEO, Ryan O'Gara, to introduce his team and talk to us about the turtles. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thanks, everyone. I have a couple of, I'm going to separate the monitoring from the research, and we'll have Kelly chat about the research portion if you're interested, just briefly about some of those topics. A couple of things that have happened recently in the event I'm sure you are aware, because of a change in how the staffing occurred from Great Lakes. We are required to now do night monitoring for an additional 30 days just for the period of staff change. This was not part of the original plan. This is a deviation from the plan, and has changed the workload fairly considerably, because now it involves a whole new set of night monitoring that was not expected. But I am going to share this screen here just so we can look at the sea turtle monitoring. Generally, though not terribly important that you see the screen, but just for us to see here, there have been to date 127 nests relocated, 48 relocated from the southern half of Captiva to the northern half, and 79, which you obviously understand to be the majority, relocated from Captiva to Sanibel, which does require additional night work. Do keep in mind that this is an incredibly rare thing. FWC mentions frequently that they don't allow this sort of relocation from one island to the other elsewhere. A total of 900, well, let's just say 12,000 eggs have been moved. 100 survey days thus far as of September 10th. And remember, this, of course, will go throughout the project, but additionally, there are federal and state requirements that you all are aware of that will have to occur after the completion of the project. Did someone try to ask something? I heard a noise, sorry.
Nope.
Nope. Okay, 968 staff hours as of September the 10th. So I'm going to stop there with monitoring for now. This is underway. You all are very aware. I don't want to belabor the point, and then we can move on to the research project after that, if you all don't have any questions.
Mr. Sylvia?
Well, Ryan, I have the standard question.
Please.
How do we measure success or deliverables in terms of turtle monitoring? Is there any benchmarks that we can look at? to say this is successful or not?
So there are the very clear realities of, are we moving the nests? Are we monitoring? They're actually fairly straightforward. What Kelly's research, what her team's research is underlying is with their research rather is looking at the success rate of those moved nests and determining whether or not there is a negative effect on that. However, that is outside of the FWC permit for the monitoring. So that is a separate permitting process that Kelly has in hand. So it really is fairly straightforward. It is simply, are we moving the nests in the correct time? Are we monitoring when required by the state?
It was an interesting comment you made that this is not usually done, moving from one island to another. And I was wondering, are we going to hear something back from somebody with respect to, well, you never should have done it because these are the negatives?
Right. No, we are not. That we have special permitting. In fact, you all have rather legislative authority to do this. It's just rare in the sense that when we talk to FWC, other places are not able to do this and are not doing this. And we don't know, and that's why you all have funded the research to go along with this. We don't know if this process is in fact detrimental to the success rate of the hatchlings. Are we losing, are the nests less productive because they're being moved and the other processes occurring in the renourishment project? So we have some preliminary data that Kelly and her team are looking at. They've equipped many nests. I don't have the exact number here in front of me, and Kelly's just texting me that her audio is not working, but we've put on monitors on all of these nests. So at the end, we're going to have a very straightforward response that will then be published in peer-reviewed journals and presented widely on the outcomes of this. And of course, we'll share it with you and I would suggest a special research presentation, either as part of one of your meetings or a special occasion. But no, there's no way to get in trouble because everything we're doing is pre-approved by the state.
Ryan, this is Mike Mullins. Presumably, moving the nest from one island to the other means there's a longer transition from being dug up to being placed back in the ground, et cetera. Are there other reasons besides that would result in something deleterious to the hatchlings besides the time?
Well, time is certainly one of the most important factors, and certainly what can be the most detrimental. The other includes jarring, moving them in the process. Of course, we're as careful as possible. The weight of the sand, the texture of the sand could be different on different beaches.
Essentially, a longer time.
Increased, right?
Handling,
exactly. And we have a very specific window that we have to adhere to, and we do that, and we try to shorten that as much as possible because our interest and your interest is in the success of these turtle nests. So,
Ryan, I have a question. The study itself, is that hands-on with the SCCF where they're, the $40,000 grant or whatever exactly it was to, with that particular study? Is there some special interaction going on with the nests that were relocated as part of the study, or is that what exactly is that study? I know you mentioned it before. You talked about
right.
You can refresh my memory how it correlates.
Of course, yeah, I'm happy to. Actually, so can I just ask someone on the technical side? Kelly says that she's a participant and not a panelist, and that's why she can't speak. Kelly is much more eloquent on this, and I would hate to give you less correct information than her if someone could make her a panelist.
Excuse me, John can unmute her because Mr. Levinson was not a panelist. He was.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, he was able to be unmuted. So John, do you think you could unmute Kelly?
There she is.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
So I actually couldn't hear the question. Would somebody mind repeating?
Oh.
Repeat it. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I want to make sure you capture what you want to hear.
Today, the grant that the SCCF underwrote for the special study, that was being done also in correlation with the lab test that being done. What was it, University of Miami or something? It was the special, I don't know what the exact name was. And I wanted to know how that is correlating with the existing nest that you're relocating. Is there some, I mean, I just want to understand the correlation of what's being done, because you have the monitoring, you have the moving of the nest. Because, you know, my next question is, what is different than the monitoring that is done in years of leach removal?
So I
So I
think,
just wanted, because it's complex, but I want to.
I think explaining the research process, Kelly, as you have would probably be helpful.
I think you're referring to our Red Tide study, which is answering a different question. But this particular project that CEPD funded requires us to put data loggers in each of the nests. So we have a temperature, moisture, and water level logger in each nest. Throughout incubation, it collects data every 15 minutes. And then once the nest hatches, we're going in to basically take all the unviable eggs and stage them so we can see when the embryo died. We're collecting sand samples, and we're also doing sand compaction, beach slope measurements, all kinds of data collection to see how those factors play into embryonic mortality. And like Ryan said, we can also look at how relocation affects the mortality as well, and see how all these puzzle pieces fit together to impact hatch success.
So that would be with the Captiva nests, not with the sand on Santa.
We have
That's fine.
nests on both. We have 56 nests that are part of the study, and the majority of them were on Sanibel, but there are some on Captiva just because more nests are laid on Sanibel than Captiva.
But Brian, wasn't the purpose of the test because on Captiva with the beach nourishment sand, there were less turtles hatching, and you explained and convinced me to go ahead and study because the water quality issues, and was a further arrow in our quiver regarding water quality issues that we could ask for, help. So now I'm trying to understand how the study being done at Sanibel, reflects Captiva.
Right. Well, part of it is the relocation, right? So, but what you're referring to is the general success rate on Captiva is lower statistically, and I'm not sure, Kelly, the by what percentage, but that was kind of the basis for understanding the entire project is why does Captiva have a lower success rate than Sanibel generally? That's one piece of the puzzle. Kelly, you're welcome to.
So I guess what I'm saying, itself being incorporated.
I didn't hear you.
Use of the sand. I mean, I don't know if I'm probably not explaining myself well, but.
Yeah, well, Sanibel's integral in this process because of the relocation, but also you need to have a constant against which to measure, right? So the reason we know Captiva has a lower success rate is because Sanibel has a higher success rate, right? So you couldn't study Captiva in a vacuum because then you wouldn't have anything against to compare it.
Kelly, are you studying Captiva nests and to see why there's less turtles hatching in Captiva, put in a very 5th grade vernacular?
Yeah, that's the end goal, is to figure out why the hatch rate's lower on Captiva.
So, but you are utilizing examples of nests in Captiva, even though they've been relocated. Does that change the data? Does that change the data at all? Or?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's two kind of different questions: how relocation is impacting hatch success, and then how the sand quality is impacting hatch success. And for the sand question, we can only use nests that weren't moved by us, because that's introducing another variable.
So the magic question is how many nests that weren't moved in Captiva were you actually able to capture that?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I would guess around 20.
Oh, okay, so at least it's 20. All right, that was.
That was our big effort, was to get as many loggers in before we had to start moving the nests off the island.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, if we don't have any further turtle questions, I'll just mention briefly, and this is, I know you all are aware of this, but in the event that the project does not complete by October 1st, the state and the county will require eagle monitoring that you'll have to deal with. And I know you've already spoken with our shorebird biologist, but we are in a waiting holding pattern for a response from the county on those permits, and we'll certainly follow up when we know more on that.
Question of eagle monitoring, the only nest, it's a camera right on. So what, we probably have the web feed to that. So what is needed for eagle monitoring when they've got their own studio with their nest?
Right.
No fairness.
I can't hear what Jennifer said. I'm sorry.
I mean, you don't have to have a person standing out there. There's literally a camera on the nest.
What I was saying is that we have a representative from the county, Steve Patel, who's on the call. And I would defer to Steve if he's aware of the county eagle ordinance. If he could give us any feedback on that, on Chair Mahill's question. Steve, are you available?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
So I don't know the requirements of that, but I do know there are actually 2 nests on the island. So I don't know if they both have cameras on them or not, but I know there are 2 potentially in play, and the closer to the project is actually the one up on South Seas. That's the extent of what I know. And other than that, they have been discussing the details of that even as recently as an hour ago.
Yeah, we don't have the final on that. So thank you, Steve. So Renee.
Jennifer, this is Commissioner Mullins. I have a question. When are we currently targeting completion of the project? What do we estimate?
October, I want to say, Nicole, do you have a more recent update given that our booster was down this week?
Hi, so this is Nicole Sharp with Aptum. The contractor's been giving us preliminary schedules, and based upon information, the project could extend into late October.
With actual nourishment work, or is that including the, building the dunes and the grasses and such?
So it's the actual nourishment work, and then the dune grass plantings probably would not be a large impactive activity within the vicinity of the eagle nest. So the dune plantings could extend a little bit past October, late October, but the current schedule from the contractor could allow for the dune plantings to start after they finish up on the south end. It just depends when they get the dune plants in.
Thank you.
From the grower.
So we will, it's certainly, I mean, the county will follow up with CEPD, and we're happy to help facilitate as necessary on that. So thank you.
It's one nest. County is 2.
Well, it does, yeah, right. It does. Unfortunately, if there's one, that's all you need. Not unfortunately, fortunately, it's a good way to protect these creatures. I'm only hearing every other word from Renee.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. So we'll move on to. Okay. Well, first, let me start by saying thank you again for your partnership and your funding of this important sea level. Well, we landed on the name collectively with you all of Coastal Resilience Manager. I think it's really important, as you all are aware, that we have someone who can be a leader and someone who can bring people together on our islands whoa, there's some terrible feedback. Sorry, on our islands to get us to a point of long-term resiliency. Carrie Schumann, who is here on the call, will introduce herself, but I do want to just say a few things. That she's only been here a few weeks and already hit the ground running. There are, as you all know, roughly 10,000 people with whom she has to speak in order to get up to up to speed on a lot of these projects going on. And part of the need for this position that we all recognized is that there are in fact so many efforts going on, and we need someone to be a central voice and driving force in this process. So she has spent quite a bit of time speaking with me, with Jennifer Nelson and many others on getting a lay of the land. She joins us from most recently from New Hampshire, but is not new to Florida in any way. I know you all have seen her bio, but she has a PhD from the University of Florida and has taught courses involving climate change for some years now. But I'm going to let Carrie just give you a kind of a brief overview of where we're going and what her thoughts are, and introduce herself. So thanks, Carrie.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. So hello to everybody. I really look forward to, to this virtual meeting and getting to meet everybody in person. Just to give you a little bit more sense of the kind of background that I bring to this. So my my science training is pretty interdisciplinary. So, including what Ryan said, I have a strong research background that's primarily in natural sciences, but I also have experience in social science, education, training in additional areas like policy, environmental economics. So I think it helps me bring a pretty comprehensive lens to looking at things. And I have developed a pretty solid network of folks and experts, which I think is pretty invaluable. Some of them are in other parts of Florida, but I think they're going to be really helpful to trying to navigate some of the things that Captiva needs in terms of coastal resilience. I also bring a teaching background. So again, some of that climate change, but at lots of different levels. So GK-12, all the way to adult learners, and a background and passion for science communication. So hopefully those are threads to really pull together to help, facilitate good conversations between everybody and to help access science expertise that we might need. So just a couple brief thoughts about, some of the direction and some of the things that I would think about in this position. So a real commitment to finding solution-driven ways to help Captiva achieve coastal resiliency as expediently as possible. And a couple ideas about what that looks like. So thinking about and helping with coordination of efforts at different scales. So thinking about, the connectivity of Captiva and Santabella's island systems and how they might influence each other, to help facilitate and see what's happening at the county scale, what's happening with the regional resiliency compacts. So really being in tune to those efforts, really helping to facilitate productive conversations, sort of internally and with the community around all your thoughts about what resiliency is going to mean for Captiva and what your needs are. Again, providing and locating that expertise to help think about the trade-offs between different resiliency options for the community. What are those potentials for success, maintenance needs, thinking about kind of costs and trade-offs. And I'll have some ability to work with the policy team at SCCF also to kind of keep an eye on, different kinds of legislation that could have impact for the future resiliency for the community here. So those are just some ideas, but those are some directions I've been thinking about. So it's really lovely to meet everybody, and I'm really can't wait to help everybody on your pathway to resilience and all that.
Welcome aboard, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to bring your attention to the fact that there was an open question posed by Joel Cowett regarding whether people are facing the microphones. Are there more than one microphone? I just wanted to point out to you this in the question and answer. There was a question there by Joel, because much of the information being spoken by the board is not being picked up, he's saying.
Is this the microphone?
Yeah, that's much better. Right, whatever you just
good.
changed.
Okay, how is it now? Okay,
Much
well, how
better.
about some questions? How's that?
Well, I have a couple questions.
All right, start with you, John.
Okay, so in 6 months, Carrie, what's my deliverable? What are you gonna tell me in 6 months?
Okay, so in 6 months, what am I gonna tell you about? I heard part of that. So I'm sorry.
I think that's it,
We're
just
gonna
generally 6 months.
Okay,
Yeah, in
well.
6 months, what do I get for all this money?
Okay, so so there's a few things that I was thinking about sort of early on. I don't know if I hit sort of the 6 month mark with my thought process, but I was already starting to think about some of this. So some of the things I was thinking about is that you know, one thing that sounds like it's going to be useful to everybody is, you know, I'm going to really be that central person who really has a good understanding of what's happening for resiliency planning with between lots of different groups. So, you know, that's something I already see is some, you know, some cross-pollination, some idea of what's going on. But if I can really meet and network with these different groups who are active in this kind of resiliency work, I'm going to be able to really be a source of connection to really keep people abreast of what is happening there. One thing that I think by 6 months is that I want to be up to speed or keep us up to speed with the planning that's being done around coastal resiliency. So I know that Sanibel and Captiva right now are in process for their vulnerability assessments. And, you know, I know that there's some things already in process, but I want to be able to, depending on where we are, I want us to be able to understand, you know, if we haven't gotten funded, what are some potential new funding sources that we could use for that? Are there certain things that we need to keep considering around like sea level rise modeling and understanding the pros and cons of different approaches? Are there gaps or anything that we're missing? You know, I do know that there are, you know, there's certain things that we have to meet legislative in comprehensive planning at different levels that we'll want to make sure that we're meeting. So I want to help with that process and make sure I really understand, you know, what those requirements are and if we're really meeting our marks for those. I also, a couple other ideas that are going to be happening coming up. So supporting, so you have projects that are assisting with kind of charting a path forward with some additional resiliency pieces. So helping with, so helping with some of the strategic planning on the island that might help coordinate efforts a little bit more. You know, I'm probably going to launch into some communications to help sort of normalize that conversation and figure out what the communication needs are to help, you know, things continue to run smoothly. So those are just a few of the things that I've sort of started to brainstorm, actually probably to happen sooner than 90 days. But I think the thing is to really appreciate sort of the time frame that things need to be done, how they fit into the legislative framework, and also, you know, how to coordinate different levels so that things are being done efficiently and there's not a lot of duplication of efforts and everyone's sort of aware of what everybody else is doing so that, you know, we collaborate at the points that we need to collaborate at.
Well, that's very detailed. Thank you, Carrie. I'm Renee, the chairman.
Hi.
Where are you from in New Hampshire? I'm from Massachusetts, that's why.
Oh, okay. So I am a New Englander. I grew up in New England, so I'm from New Hampshire, so southern New Hampshire.
Where in New Hampshire are you from? I spent many summers.
Specifically. So I grew up in Londonderry, New Hampshire, right near Manchester. Yeah. And then I lived in Massachusetts. I lived in Maine. Yeah, so I'm definitely, I've got the New Englander sensibility and sort of, but then I've got the Florida piece. So I'm like that snowbird who knows what people are thinking at both ends, you know?
I think, Jennifer, we're the legislative body at the end of the day, as far as when construction happens, if we build resiliency, we're the legislative body. And and several months ago, Ryan came to us and said, I want to get a full-time person to deal with this, and I was the sort of driver on the CEPD side to convince the board that we need to do this. And so, we're very excited about this, and I wanted to sort of just illustrate our situation, you know, for perspective. So ordinarily, we, if we're going to do a project, be it, let's say, resiliency, well, beach renourishment, in a normal process, we would hire the engineering firm we like to work with. We would say, we want a design and a plan that's permittable because we're pretty convinced that we need to build our beaches up, or we need to build the bay up with a living seawall, et cetera. And ordinarily what we would do, we'd hire the engineers, we'd drop $250,000, and 2 years later, there's a chance that we would get permitted, you know, maybe, maybe not. But this is our normal business-like process. So what John was saying, or what we're saying is, we just want to make sure that, and we're not saying it's right or wrong, but that your vision is the same as ours. We are looking for, there's so many studies out there, and there's so many interlocking parts. We don't want to be in a process where it's just a bureaucratic process of studies and interactions. We want to build something. We know that, look, the water level has increased, and there's a time to fish or cut bait. Maybe that's the worst analogy, but there are, what we're trying to say is, ordinarily, we would just call the engineers and do what I just said.
Yeah,
So now
sure.
we're trying to make it more encompassing. There's the panel working with their committee. We're working with the SCCF. You are the product of us working there. And we just wanted to say publicly that what we're looking for as a deliverable is the ability to say, okay, this is a 2-year timeline. I'm just volunteering. This is a 2-year timeline. We need these, well, there's a lot of studies out there. We can utilize these. There's some possible grants there that we've identified. We can try to push for that. And we, meaning whoever needs to do it, go and get it done. We have looked at the process, start telling the community that this particular design is a winner. This is another bit. This to me would be a deliverable, saying, here's a plan, let's float it. So for example, we had a beach renourishment 30 years ago. Believe it or not, it was a failure twice. And then a man came along and he had the political words to say to people who were against beach renourishment, do you paint your house? And they would say, yeah. They say, why do you paint your house? Well, to maintain it. Well, we got to maintain our island. And thus it was passed, the referendum was passed. And then the engineers said, well, we don't need beach here. He said, no, you put beach sand everywhere because we want this to be successful. And then little by little design it. So what I'm saying to you, using that as an example, we are now at the realization that the water levels on the bay side are nowhere near the resiliency, if at all, on the front side. On the front side, we had an extra, since 1988, we have an extra elevation because of beach renourishment of approximately 14 feet over and above what we had before. So during a sea level rise of 2 or 3 feet, we have a delta of 12 feet that never would have happened if we didn't do the beach renourishment. So obviously we want to address the plan in the back the same way with some kind of, as I said, with the seawall, and what studies work, what they're doing in the Netherlands. And Ryan and I have had this conversation multiple times. But what I'm trying to say to you, now that you are the high priestess, if you will, to really take us seriously, we say, we'd like to see what is the course of, what is, in your opinion, the deliverable, the course of action. These are the plans that are popular. And so we can start telling the community, this is what we'd like to do. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. So, because in a perfect situation, in 2 years, we could be getting our, money is not the issue. Permitting is the issue. Design is the issue. And also bringing everyone together, not wasting time is the issue. So I'll get off. the
Yeah,
soapbox.
yeah. No, I can certainly appreciate that. I mean, I think that does involve, sort of vetting and accessing some of the expertise I'm talking about to also help us, figure out if we're choosing the right options. And getting a sense of, even though there's studies out there, what's the practical application aspects, are you finding in your area that you're seeing these solutions working? So I certainly appreciate getting to that point where you have workable solutions for the community and then can communicate that.
Cool. Well, thank you. And by the way, point of reference, the first 700 feet of the island, there's a living seawall. There was so much water going through that people were afraid they would lose their home at the beginning of the Line Pass. So
Gotcha.
a permit was issued where they put limestone riprap, just dumped it there. And then that's for erosion. And then they put the mangrove seeds. Now they have 18-foot tall mangroves on the rocks themselves, and they've prevented the water from seeping forward onto the land. And to me, it's like this most brilliant example of what we should be strongly considering, or at least evaluate and say, well, here's something here that was done 30 years ago, and this is the result, versus a study upon the study. It's something that, I don't know if anyone's brought that to your attention or not. The first 800 feet.
Not that particular detail.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm a little concerned that we have a public hearing at 5:01 and how much time we have in our agenda. I'm intrigued by this discussion and very interested, but I'm staying quiet on purpose. I would like to schedule another meeting at either a public workshop or a regular meeting or whatever, where we have Ryan and Carrie back and we talk about the integration of the effort that's being done by the panel and Sanibel and the CEPD and how we coordinate that going forward. And it's an intriguing discussion for me, but I don't think there's enough time to cover all these bits right now. So how much time do we need to finish the meeting?
No, that's
a public hearing.
We have
37 minutes.
And with the other, all right, so we should move on to the other items. Or any other questions, whiteboard or Jennifer?
Carrie, I'm not trying to cut you short by any
Oh,
stretch.
no, it's okay.
No,
I'm happy to say, I'm happy to, at whatever further date that you want to, I am happy to talk about any of these things in any capacity you'd like to. So I'm ready to have those conversations.
Cutting off the verbosity of our chairman.
Thank you. Thank you all for your support. See you soon.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. Thank you so much.
This is Jen. So what I will do is I'll reach out to you two and get you probably on our schedule for a workshop a week from Thursday. So I'll reach out to both of you individually.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So we'll go to the next. Thank you, and nice meeting you, and we'll see you.
Yeah,
again.
nice meeting you too.
Okay, so where are we?
Chairman?
Yes.
I apologize. I would like to go back and clarify something in the last motion when we talked about the additional sand volume.
Right.
One of the things that we did not do, and we made this mistake before, so I'm a little bit sensitive to it, is
Go
we
ahead.
did not give this a dollar amount. And we did, yes, that was me, but we didn't say that.
All right, so how do we fix it?
So the way we fix it is, would the motion maker agree to add not to exceed the dollar amount of $3 million regarding the sand volume change order, because we will have to add additional plantings as well.
Who made the motion?
Commissioner Moss?
Yeah, Jennifer, it's actually improper procedure to try to amend a motion in that fashion. So I'd rather just make a whole new motion to add in that clause. If you would read me the motion, I'll be happy to make it.
We are going to need a motion of a not to exceed amount of $3 million to include sand volume in addition to additional plantings.
Okay, I would like to make that motion then.
Can I interrupt that? Because this is just doing the calculations. It's going to be a little bit more than $3 million. We're going to be short if we just do it at $3 million.
Well, why don't we cross that bridge when we come? I think in the workshop, we discussed it. It was a $3 million number that was suggested, right?
Ask Nicole. Nicole, wasn't it 3 mil?
was Jennifer that gave the number in the workshop.
Yeah,
Well,
it
but-
was a little bit over 3 million, I believe.
What's the no, all right, so what do you want to say, 3.1?
I would be, to be safe, let's do 3.5, not to exceed.
No,
I won't make
3.5.
that motion because I recall we discussed 3 and I would want details. So I'm not going to make a motion to go with more, $500,000 without knowing the details. Sorry.
Nicole, I thought you said it was, all right, Nicole, school us here. What, 3,061,000.
Okay, so then let's do, would you be comfortable then, Commissioner Mullins, to do a not to exceed $3.1 million?
Yes, I'm happy to amend, to ask the board to vote for an amendment to modify my earlier motion to put a not to exceed 3.1 million.
Thank you, Harry.
And I'll second.
Thank you.
Call the vote.
Aye.
Vice Chairman
Yeah,
Sylvia,
aye.
Secretary Kaiser,
Aye.
Treasurer File,
Aye.
Commissioner Mullins,
Aye.
Chairman Neville.
Aye.
Motion
Thank you,
passes
Jennifer.
unanimously.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Just wanted to
Good job.
clarify.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, item.
So I can go, if you'd like me to move through these pretty quickly here.
Yeah,
Chair, I'd be
please.
happy to.
Oh, yeah, this is
So
you.
the next item that we need to discuss or want to give a quick update on our beach nourishment project. I was going to ask Daniel Munt to update us on that, but given that he's under the weather, Dan, are you okay if I just kind of brief everyone?
That's fine, or I can just run through it real quick.
Go
either-
ahead. I want to
Okay.
do your, hold your breath.
Thank you. So roughly approximately 6,300 linear feet of beach have currently been constructed to include dune construction along the south end of the beach. They're scheduled to reach the south end of the island by September 17th, approximately. And then they would go north from the current pipeline landing to approximately mid-island, and this would be accomplished by September. This would be accomplished by roughly September 26th, and that's when they would change the pipeline landing.
Okay.
Okay, great. Do you want to talk a little bit too about the booster being down on and off this week?
I've not heard too many details about it other than it's been down and they fixed it at our last meeting. At the conclusion of our last meeting, they announced that they had fixed it.
Yeah. Well,
It's up and down.
It's up and down, and I spoke with Ed from the Great Lakes team yesterday and said that they're in the process of getting it fixed, and it is my knowledge as of this morning, it is working. But that's too far, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Auditor engagement letter.
yeah, Mr. Chair, we do annually an auditor engagement letter. This is pretty formal and standard, but we do need to have a vote on this.
Yep.
To approve the engagement letter so that we can begin the audit.
Can we have a motion to move forward with this year's audit?
So moved.
All right, Dick Pyle made the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
And
second.
John beat you to the punch there.
Ah.
So, all right, we have a first and a second. Let's have a vote.
Okay.
All in
Vice Chairman
favor?
Sylvia,
Aye.
Secretary Kaiser's an aye, Treasurer
Aye.
File, Commissioner Mullins,
Aye.
and Chairman Neville.
Aye.
Motion passes
Yep,
unanimously.
okay, financial reports. We'll now move on to financial reports. Mr. Treasurer, that's you, Dick. Can you please update the board on our budget, or do you want to pass it on to
Or
Jennifer?
we can pass it to Jason as well.
Yeah, Jason.
I'll pass it on. I'll pass it on to Jennifer.
To Jason. Jennifer gives it to Jason.
Jason Smith, our CPA, is on the call. Jason, do you want to highlight any of the highlights for August? I know we haven't gone through June or July because we didn't have a meeting, but if you could just bring us up to current for August. I know our parking lot revenue was about 70,000. Jason, are you there?
Jennifer, Mike Mullins here. May I ask a question, please? Yeah, I've got a healthcare worker here, a nurse, and his final visit to my wife with her illness, and I need to take a few minutes with him. Are there any votes coming that I'm going to have to vote on? Because I'm going to step aside for 10 minutes and then come back, but.
Mike, see you.
Not until 5:01.
See you.
Nothing. Sorry, okay. Not till 5:01. Okay, great. I'll make it as quick as I can. Bye.
Okay, great. So just to again reiterate, our performance is good. We're still under budget. We are our parking lot sales were nearly $70,000 in the month of August, which is pretty incredible. We've seen a very busy summer, especially in light of the project that's been happening. So overall, we are pretty strong in our numbers, and I think Treasurer Pyle will agree.
60,000 over what we were last year.
Right, and that's due to the price increase at the parking lot. All right.
Jennifer, this is Dick. Yes, I've reviewed the August financials and everything. I did not notice any issues one way or another. We are, on budget as far as our revenues. And one of the things I noticed is we've got to get going on our grants, and hopefully we can help the budget a little bit down the road, especially if the sand cost is going to be about $3 million more than what we anticipated. That would make that project a $21 million project. So it's going to definitely take, more of our reserves than we thought just before the project started. But otherwise, financially, everything seems to be okay.
Commissioner Pyle, you realize that even when the project costs, that's everyone else's, so does everyone else's. So the county's got to give us more, the state gives us more. So based on our ratio, we wouldn't be covering all three. We would be covering like 45% of the three or something like that. But you're right about finding the money, but we're not on the hook for three. We're on the hook for our portion of the three.
Jason, do you want to go ahead and interject on the grants?
Jason?
Oh, no, I was trying to speak earlier when you were asking me. I didn't know if you could hear me. I can go over a few highlights if you'd like.
Do why you can't. Mike Mullins is not here.
Yes.
Okay, in the general fund for the year, we ended at 638,000 of tax revenue. There's a net income in the general fund through 11 months of 311,000. In the capital projects fund, so far, just under 775,000 of parking revenue. And the capital projects at this point has a net income of 506,000.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, any questions before we move on to the next item? Okay, we already went over parts. So administrative, you're on, Jen.
Thank you. So I only have a few things for my administrative update. First of all, we have no follow-up action items from the last time we met. So I don't have anything on our parking lot list, but I did want to talk about two things. As you all know, it's been incredibly difficult for us to engage in meetings without a quorum. So I'm going to ask each and every one of you to really think about your roles here on the CEPD board and think about how you want to continue, if you want to continue, with the understanding that the expectation is that you've got to make the meetings. We have to have a physical quorum. And I'm not trying to scold you or sound like your mothers, but I know several times when I've called some of you, I don't receive phone calls back. So in an effort to mitigate some of that, starting in the month of October, I will be having a regular monthly meeting with each one of you individually to review the agenda a week prior to the meeting. So that way I have an opportunity to meet with each of you one-on-one, whether it's via phone or in person. We'll be going through the agenda items, and it's an opportunity for you all to ask me questions and an opportunity for me to communicate any information that me or my team need you to understand prior to our meeting. So that's first. Second, I wanted to talk a little bit about safety during the project. We've had a little bit of a challenge with some of the homeowners and property owners that own the properties along the Nourishment. I need to just constantly remind folks that when there are bulldozers and heavy equipment present, the contractor will not allow anybody on the beach. They will not allow any visitors on the beach, residents on the beach, government entities on the beach. You just can't go on the beach.
Yeah, they got really strict.
They're very strict.
I mean, in the
because
old days, they used to let you grab the shells when
Yeah,
it came out of the
well,
pipe.
OSHA.
Yes,
OSHA.
a lot of liabilities have increased. Dan and I do a walk ahead weekly with Great Lakes. Actually, our next walk ahead is tomorrow at 1 p.m. It's going to be with Mr. Lappy as well as one of his employees at Twin Waters, because that's the next section that we'll be doing. So that's going to be very good safety, because as you know, they have so many visitors to the beach. So I just wanted to remind everybody, we are constantly communicating, for those of you in the audience, constantly communicating on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page. We are sending out through constant contacts our beach briefs. So feel free to sign up for those, and we can make sure you get an email. Any property owners who have any questions, who've been calling, continue to call, and we're happy to communicate. But I just wanted to kind of remind everybody that it has gotten strict, probably more strict than it was 8 years ago. And we have sand bridges every 300 feet along the beach that go over the pipe, so the guests can still enjoy the beach. But if there's any large equipment, they're gonna have to walk further down to get over that pipe and into the water. So I wanted to just communicate that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so commissioners' comments. Mike? Oh, he's
No,
not there.
I'm fine, but the project seems to be coming along pretty damn good.
Yeah.
They're past my house already, and they're coming right down here.
Yeah, I think we're gonna Christine said they've got about 2,000 linear yards. left
Yeah.
Until they went past. So.
And the beach does look very good. I don't know, we've been out there now, but it does look good.
Good.
Well, speaking of attendance, I just want to personally thank Mr. Kyle
Oh, yeah.
for going
Yes,
against
Mr.
his
Kyle.
doctor's orders,
Oh, my God.
leaving
yeah.
the nice weather of Long Island to come here, because
It's hot, and
it was.
It does affect
Thank
my,
you so
my,
much for- I mean, it's
my
not
shoulders
told him
are-
not to go. He's
Being too hot or being too cold?
pardon?
Being too hot or being too cold?
Hot weather, the shortness of breath, it's not my lungs, you know. It's my aortic valve.
And,
I can't believe that that's going bad.
well, thank you. Really,
Yeah,
bottom of my heart, thank you.
well, I need a suggestion of a good,
Well, Mike, oh, boy, good
for,
luck.
for memorial. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try to get a good appointment with a memorial.
Oh, at Help.
Yeah, health park.
Well, there's two, do you know Steve Brown? Well, okay, that's another, I'll call you.
Yeah,
Barry
because
Antonucci's the
Mike is
CEO.
trying.
Do we
He
want to
was the
continue
CEO.
with Commissioner comments?
Yes, Commissioner Condon, I know the.
Oh, no, I'm.
Yeah, all right, so, okay, so the second thing I wanted to say is, it's pretty massive. I mean, when you see what they used to do with a couple of bulldozers now compared to where it is now, it's, wow, talk about, you know, and according to Nicole Schock, she says we're the best for beach nourishment. Captiva's famous for doing a great job with all
Yeah.
of them.
How many feet from the water's edge to where they're aiding sand? How many feet, how many
It
feet
changes
did they,
everywhere, Harry.
did they
It
weigh about?
changes everywhere. My phone said,
Yes.
What the heck is that?
that's my ring.
All right, so do we have any other additional comments, commissioner comments?
Chair, there's no other business. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Done and done.
Okay, great. We will
Who's in the
reconvene.
audience? I know these
We'll
people.
reconvene at 5:05 for or 5:01 for our next tentative trim meeting.
Back here in the Zoom.
oh, except for the taxes, but.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
I think I know, in 1980, we paid 300,000. Why have to
Good.
Wow, that's a big price. Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, everyone, we're gonna call to order the welcome to the tentative budget hearing of the Captiva Erosion Prevention District on this Monday, September 13th. It's at 5:01. The meeting will now come to order. Okay, so we do a roll call. First of all, do we have commissioners requesting to appear remotely? We have Mr. Mike Mullins.
Aye.
Hey, Mike. Okay, so can we just get we need a motion to allow Mike to appear and vote.
I'll make a motion that we allow Mike.
And I'll second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. Okay, now, is there any public comments?
Renee, I missed the kickoff. I was about a minute late to the meeting. So this is a public hearing, not a continuance of the earlier meeting. I just want to go on record on that, right?
No, we introduced it as a public meeting. This is a public meeting that.
Renee, this is under trim. There's very specific legal requirements, and this is a public hearing. They're all public meetings, but this is a public hearing.
Yes.
That's why it's at 5:01, so that people who work can attend it after 5 o'clock. So I'm just saying, I want to be clear about what this is called.
Yeah, and we said, welcome to the tentative budget hearing of the Captiva Erosion Prevention District. Is that not correct? That is correct.
That's correct.
All right. Okay, there's no public comments. So the percentage increase in millage over the rollback rate needed to fund the budget is 2.33%. And basically, it's keeping up, the millage rate is keeping up, it's increasing because of the property values. We're not bumping up the rate, it's just the property values that are, yeah. Okay, so that's the ad valorem tax revenue. All right, so the Captiva Erosion, I'm going to publicly read the following. The Captiva Erosion Prevention District, it's a resolution, it's number 2021. What's the number on the resolution?
This will be 20.
2021, number 20.
Can I ask a question before you read it? I commented earlier that it was not attached to this meeting agenda and the resolution itself, and I was trying to find it. Where would I find that so I can read it myself?
I sent it, when you made that request, I sent it in the email, and it's also posted on the website.
Okay, so let me open up. Was I missing something? Was it attached to an earlier meeting event or something?
No. So
What time? Was that at 2:52, John? Is that when you sent it?
I believe so.
More details? Is it under more details? No. Okay, in any event.
John, can you post that
resolution?
That resolution and the budget in front of us?
You doing that?
Mike, I just scanned and sent it to you. But it hasn't, I don't know if it's left. It should have left.
I sent you a link in the chat.
It hasn't sent yet because of the war. It's still sent. There it is. Mike, you should have it any second. I scanned it and sent it to you. Dick, you had a question?
No, I was just wondering if John could post that. He's starting to do that right now. Oh,
Renee,
good.
what did you send it to?
Thanks.
My personal email or to?
Your personal email, sorry, I don't have your.
John's post, it's up there now, Mike.
Okay.
I've also sent you a link in the chat.
All right, so can I read it now, gentlemen?
Yes, go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay, a resolution of the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, adopting the tentative levying of ad valorem taxes for Lee County for fiscal year 2021, 2022, providing for an effective date. Whereas the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, on September 13, 2021, adopted fiscal year tentative mileage rates following a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065. Whereas the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida within Lee County has been certified by the county property appraiser to the Captiva Erosion Prevention District as 1,542,825,679. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, that one, the FY fiscal year 2021, 2022 tentative operating millage rate is spot 4395 mils, which is greater than the rollback rate of spot 4295 mils by 2.33%. The resolution will take effect immediately upon its adoption. The foregoing yes, now we'll have a motion.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to accept resolution number 2021. Yeah, what? Nothing? Isn't it supposed to have a resolution number, excuse me, for the record? Isn't it supposed to have a resolution number?
There was a few in between, and we got a couple.
2021.
No, it's supposed to be 2021-9 or 12 or whatever it is. It's not complete. Every resolution in a year is serially one higher than the previous.
We've had a lot of motions that have come in between the last two and this one, so the sequencing got messed up, so I didn't put a number on.
Do you know the number?
So let's
Well, that doesn't work that way. You have to assign a number so we know which resolution we're talking to. What? It's 2021.
Public record, can we give it?
Yes.
Anyway, so do you want to play it safe? Because we know it's always ascending. So why don't we say 2025, knowing that there's no.
The problem then is when you go to look at it in the future, you'll think there are 4 missing resolutions. There's a reason why this is established a certain way. And this is just plain shoddy work.
I agree.
You can't just throw a number at it. We got to find out what the correct number is.
Well, I remember seeing a resolution 2019.
We got 19, and then we've got.
So we're going to pull it out of our left ear is what you're saying, right? Come on, guys.
Well, we will
Let's
resolve this here.
get on the ball here, please. I'm getting tired of the sloppiness of these things.
23. Resolution 23, Mike.
We're sure of it,
23.
right? Okay, great. So resolution number 2021-23, I'm making a motion that we go forward with that resolution. Needs a second.
And Larry seconded.
Okay, now I'd like to have discussion of it.
By all means.
All right, I would like to understand that how much under budget were we in this current year, 2020, 2021 fiscal year, ending the end of this month? I missed part of the financial presentation. Sorry, I can't hear you.
You still have Jason.
Jason, would you mind reiterating for Commissioner Mullins what you said regarding the financials and what our surplus was?
Hello? All right, so he's not there. He's fine.
Is he looking for the numbers? I can say some things while I'm waiting for him to come back with the number. My understanding is that
Can you
we
hear
were.
me?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Oh, sorry, I was talking. I didn't know I was muted. Okay, so there were 638,000 of tax revenue
Go ahead.
for this year. Right now, there is a $311,000 surplus in the general fund.
Okay, that's enough. That's what I'm looking for.
For September, I'm estimating 30,000 of expenses, so we're looking at about $280,000 surplus for the year.
Okay. So the point, I'd like to make 2 points to the board while we're in this discussion stage before we vote. Number one is that I find many board members in the past have failed to understand that a person can make a motion and not vote for it. A person can second a motion and not vote for it. The idea of making the motion and seconding the motion is so that we can have discussion of the motion. Same thing goes for resolution. Now, the second point is that I'm going to vote against this because why would we need an increase of any kind when last year we had a significant increase, the year before a significant increase? We are probably $200,000 above where we were 3 years ago. That's a 33% better than 33% increase. I just don't see it. And I understand I've heard different types of things we might spend it on, but I'd rather see us run lean and have enough money within that surplus that's already there to do the things that we said we wanted to do and not support an increase of any kind. I think it's not fair to the taxpayers, and I'm opposed to the tax increase. So that's my position.
Okay, Jennifer.
I just want to clarify.
Jennifer doesn't get, excuse me, other commissioners get to talk during the discussion. They can ask questions of staff and so on, but the commissioners have to be able to speak on the discussion stage, just so you know.
Say something, and I
I
gave
just
permission to say
wanted to
something.
clarify something, Commissioner, for the public, since this is being recorded, and this is a public hearing. What I wanted to clarify is that we are not voting for an increase. We are voting to keep the millage rate the same, which will, yes, give us a $20,000 or so increase, which is a 2.33% increase. But we are voting to keep the millage rate the same. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, can I comment on that? Ken Wilkinson, the former property appraiser, said for many, many years that when property values were going up, oftentimes the county would keep the millage rate the same, but put in a big budget increase. So to be clear about this is a budget increase, even though the millage rate would remain the same. And I don't think we need a budget increase when we already had a surplus. I thought it was going to be 250,000. I think Jason said it was closer to 280,000. But nevertheless, why do we need to accumulate more money and charge extra taxes when it's not needed? We've got the money there in surplus from the prior year. So I think that as I said, I'm going to vote against it. I think it's not fair to the taxpayers, and it is an increase. It's the same millage rate, but it is an increase in budget.
All right, thank you, Mike.
If I could speak, please.
Yes.
This is Dick. I think, Mike, I'm going to vote in favor of this budget because I think it's reflective of what our revenues are going to be, and is also reflective of commitments that the CEPD board has made for the future, such as another $75,000 to help SCCF. And we're going to be looking at some things that the new resiliency coordinator is going to be looking at. So I don't mind having a budget generate a surplus, because by the time the year is done, we may have committed the CEPD to something that would reduce that surplus. And the fact that we're not.
Let me just say that the prior year's budget had $100,000 in there for resiliency, which we didn't spend. That same $100,000 is included in the prior year's budget, so it carries forward without an increase.
No, I think you're missing something here. We did, out of that 100,000, we did commit to paying for some of the salary of the resiliency coordinator. Right. And we've committed for next year because it was a 2-year commitment. And that was part of that $100,000 that was put into the budget.
And so I'm
so
saying
going forward
there for that without having to increase above the $280,000 surplus that we already have in place. That's all I'm saying.
I looked at where we're at, and I suggested one of the things that I'm worried about is our grant income. And if that comes up anywhere short, we're gonna wish that we had the budget that is being proposed. I agree that over the last couple of years, that budget has gone up a fair amount, and I was in favor of not seeing it rise any further. But in talking to Jennifer, it sounds like she's got more than enough ideas to appropriately spend any excess that we have, things that probably haven't been approved yet, but I would guess would be approved during the year.
Okay. Well, we have two divergent opinions, and the best thing of that is it's very healthy to have different opinions, because that's what makes a good business or a good government. All right, so someone call the vote.
Well, again, it's the commissioner who makes the motion's prerogative to call the vote. And I just wanted to add another comment to what Dick just said.
Okay.
Much of what's going to go forward in resilience, and a lot of the work, for example, that we're doing with the SCCF, does not have to come out of the general budget. The general budget is primarily for the administration. And I think that we've increased staff. There was plenty of money there already to cover the increase in staff last time around. So we're not going to run short of money. We have capital budget, and many of these things get assigned. And I've had this conversation with Jennifer as to why I think we should go with the rollback rate, is that we don't need the extra money. And having it there to let people dream up ideas of what to do with it is just not particularly helpful to me in looking after the taxpayers' interests. So I would call a vote at that point unless somebody else has a comment they want to make. All right. Call the vote, please.
Let's call the vote.
Vice Chair Sylvia?
What are we voting on?
Yeah, what are we voting on?
The adoption of resolution 2021-23.
And this is for
To keep
the millage rate of
the same, keep the same.
keep it the same. Is that right?
But increase the budget. But
All right.
increase the budget.
Aye.
We're not voting on the budget right now. We're just voting on the millage rate. Treasurer File.
Aye.
Commissioner Mullins.
Nay.
Okay, duly noted. Chairman LaBelle. Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
Okay, resolution number 2020-20.
2021-4.
Resolution says 20.
That was my mistake.
So, okay, so you fooled me too. 2021-24. District, Florida, adopting the tentative budget, again, tentative with a capital T. Budget for fiscal year 2021-2022, providing for an effective date. Whereas Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, on September 13, 2021, held a public hearing as required by Florida Statute 200.065. And whereas the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, set forth the appropriations and revenue estimate for the budget for fiscal year 2021-/2022 in the amount of $678,072. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Captiva Erosion Prevention District of Lee County, Florida, that the fiscal year 2021-2022 tentative budget be adopted. 2, this resolution will take effect immediately upon its adoption. The foregoing resolution was, do we have a motion? We need a motion to accept the resolution 2021-23.
So if I make this
Can John put that up on the screen like he did the prior one?
and I'll make the motion that we accept the resolution.
I'll second it. Yeah, and excuse me, John, can you put it on the screen so I can see it? Oh, he's done. Okay, is there any discussion?
Well, my understanding.
I have questions.
This is what.
Right, hang on.
This is what Mullins is arguing about, is that the budget is a surplus, and so maybe this is overstating our needs, as I understand Mullins' comment.
I believe that's his argument.
It's like you said that if we didn't do we did the rollback rate versus kept the same millage, we would have saved like, was it 20,000?
It's not that we would save
This
20,000.
reflects.
It's not that we're saving 20,000. We're avoiding the embarrassment of increasing 20,000 when we have a budget surplus of $280,000 on a basically a $400,000, the $400,000 actual expenditure, which we spent $278,000 less. So we only spent $400,000, and now we're quibbling over adding it when we could just go with the rollback rate and not have to increase our budget at all. That's all.
So because we are voted and approved millage, it comes to 678. Had we approved the rollback, it would have been 6. It would have been
62. 662.
No. Okay, thank you. 6. That's what I was trying to point out. So, do you understand, John? It would have been 650. So that's the delta.
And in what sense is this a tentative budget? Is it 6 months from now we get to revise it?
No.
10 days from now, we have a final.
John, can I give you an accurate answer to that question? Under trim law, we first put out a tentative, then we run advertisings and we tell people we're increasing the budget, whatever it is that we're doing. And then we have a final hearing after the public's had a chance to read all these details and it's in the press. And there has to be a period of, I think, not more than 2 weeks between the two. We can next month or 3 months later or 6 months from now, we can do a budget amendment and change all of the low-level details within a budget on a budget amendment if we choose to do it that way. So it's not, it's tentative in the sense that by law, this is the maximum amount that we can actually charge the taxpayers going forward. But we have the ability to tweak all of the
10.
line items within the budget and in a budget amendment if we should choose to do that at some point in the next fiscal year. Does that answer your question, John?
My question, yes, thank you very much. And my final question is, this discussion that Dick and Mike had in terms of, is this a general budget, capital budget? This is
General budget.
General
And
budget.
this goes just for
Administration.
staff.
And expenses. Yeah. Okay, so can we call the vote? It's a question, whoever. So as chairman, can I say call the vote or does someone else?
No, it's up to the person who made the motion, which I believe was John Sylvia. He has the prerogative to call the vote.
So what is my motion?
I'm losing a lot of what's going on, by the way.
It wasn't recorded before, it was.
It's recording.
Treasurer Pyle,
Dick,
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Mullins,
Yeah, I would like to ask you to tell me how it's been called, because I missed everything prior to Pyle. Your signal is not working well for some reason, but anyway, could you repeat how the vote goes so far?
Vice Chairman Sylvia, aye. Secretary Kaiser, aye. Treasurer Pyle, aye.
Nay.
Chairman Laville. Aye. Motion passes 4-1.
okay, so let's sign and that's it, folks. Da, 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 da.
And our final budget meeting is when,
10 days, September 23rd.
Yeah.
10 days from now.
Oh, call for a motion to adjourn. Call for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second,
Yes.
all in favor, boom, done. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now we gotta
Meeting
sign some
adjourned.
stuff.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you,
Meeting
guys.
adjourned.
Bye.
You know,
Aye.